The Galactic Council meeting room was huge and cold. Ambassador Vextal from the Kythera species sat on his floating chair, his blue feathers shining under the bright lights. His bird-like eyes looked down at the human representative with clear dislike. "Captain Morrison?" Vextal said in his high voice. "Your people worry too much. The border fights between my people and the Zilani are small problems. Nothing more." Captain Jake Morrison stood straight in his dark blue uniform. He was tall with brown hair and tired eyes. For 3 months he had been sending reports about the growing war between the bird-like Kythera and the insect-like Zilani. Each time the council ignored his warnings. "Sir, with respect, these are not small problems," Jake said. "My ship has recorded 15 attacks this week alone. The Zilani are getting bolder. They're using new weapons." Vextal made a sound like laughing, but it was not friendly. "Humans always see danger where there is none. This is why you come from a death world. You think everything wants to kill you." Jake felt his jaw tighten. Earth was called a death world because it was dangerous. Most planets in the galaxy were safe and peaceful. Earth had storms that could destroy cities, animals that could kill with one bite, and diseases that could wipe out entire populations. But humans had learned to live there. They had become strong. For 50 years since first contact with aliens, humans had been the peacekeepers of the galaxy. They stopped wars, helped solve problems, and protected the weak. The other species liked this because humans were good at fighting but chose not to. They were useful tools. "The Zilani have been testing our defenses," Jake continued. "They attack human patrol ships and then retreat. They're learning our weaknesses." "Your weaknesses?" Vextal's head tilted to one side. "Humans have no weaknesses. You are the mighty Deathworlders. Surely you can handle a few insects." Jake knew Vextal was mocking him. The bird alien had never liked humans. He thought they were too soft, too willing to talk instead of fight. What Vextal did not understand was that humans chose to be gentle. It was not because they could not be dangerous. In the back of the room, other council members whispered among themselves. The Fernac were small, gray aliens who looked like mice. The Helios were tall and thin with silver skin. The Boran were short and round with green fur. All of them had come from safe worlds. They had never known real danger. Jake's communication device beeped, a message from his ship, the Resolve. He looked at the screen, and his face went white. "Captain Morrison," Vextal said with annoyance. "We are in session. Your human devices can wait." Jake looked up. His voice was quiet, but something in it made the room go silent. "New Haven colony has been attacked." New Haven was a human world on the outer rim. It had farms and small cities. Families lived there. Children played in safe streets. It was what humans built when they wanted peace. The Zilani used biological weapons. Jake continued reading from his device. "A plague. Fast-acting. The colony's population was 200,000. He paused. "Current survivors, 21,000. The room was completely quiet now. Even Vextal had stopped moving. 18,000 children are dead," Jake said. His voice was still quiet, but now it was cold. "The hospitals are full. The medical staff are dying too. They sent a distress call 6 hours ago." No one answered. Lieutenant Amy Parker was Jake's second in command. She was young with red hair and smart green eyes. Her brother lived on New Haven. He was a teacher at a school there. He taught children how to read. Chief Engineer Pete Collins was older with gray hair and gentle hands. He fixed things that were broken. His parents had retired to New Haven 5 years ago. They had a small house with a garden where they grew vegetables. Jake thought about Amy getting the news. He thought about Pete learning his parents were gone. He thought about 21,000 people left alive on a world that had been full of life and laughter just hours ago. "Captain Morrison," Vextal said carefully, "this is tragic, but what?" Jake's voice was still quiet. "The council must discuss proper response. We cannot act without what? Without meetings? Without votes? Without making sure everyone agrees?" Jake stepped closer to Vextal's floating chair. "How long do your discussions take? Days? Weeks?" "The proper procedures must be followed." Jake nodded slowly. He understood now. For 50 years, humans had followed proper procedures. They had asked permission. They had waited for votes. They had been patient and polite and nice. His communication device beeped again. Another message from the Resolve. Amy had gotten the news about her brother. She was crying in her quarters. Pete was sitting alone in the engine room, staring at nothing. All around the galaxy, other humans were getting similar news. Families destroyed, children killed, dreams ended, and the Galactic Council wanted to discuss proper procedures. Jake looked around the room at all the alien faces. They were uncomfortable now. They could see something changing in him. Something they had never seen before in a human. Captain Morrison, a small Fernac said nervously. Surely you understand we must. I understand perfectly, Jake said. He was still speaking quietly, but every alien in the room heard every word. For 50 years, my people have been nice. We have been patient. We have followed your rules and waited for your permission and asked politely for help. He turned toward the door. Where are you going? Vexatel demanded. Jake stopped and looked back over his shoulder. To stop being nice. The door closed behind him with a soft sound. In the meeting room, 47 alien representatives sat in complete silence. They had just seen something that would change the galaxy forever. They had seen a human stop asking for permission. Jake walked through the long metal hallways of the council station. His boots made sharp sounds on the floor. Other aliens moved away from him. They could sense something different about him now. Something dangerous. He reached his communication room and opened a secure channel to Earth. The blue hologram of Admiral Lisa Hayes appeared in front of him. She was a strong woman with short black hair and dark eyes that had seen many wars. Captain Morrison, she said, I heard about New Haven. Admiral, I need permission to respond. Lisa studied his face on her screen. She had known Jake for 10 years. She had never seen him look like this before. His eyes were cold and empty. What kind of response are you requesting? Full military response. No restrictions. No council approval. No warnings. The channel was quiet for a long moment. Lisa was thinking. For 50 years, humans had always asked the council before taking action. They had always tried to avoid war. They had always protected alien civilians even when those aliens were shooting at them. Admiral, Jake continued, my tactical officer lost her brother. He was 24 years old. He taught children. My chief engineer lost his parents. They were gardeners. They grew flowers. Lisa nodded slowly. How many ships do you need? All of them. Jake, that's 300 ships. The entire Outer Rim fleet. The Zelani need to understand something, Admiral. They need to understand what happens when you hurt humans. Lisa was quiet again. She was thinking about her own children back on Earth. She was thinking about all the human families across the galaxy who were getting terrible news today. What about the council? She asked. What about them? They will not approve this. Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. I am not asking for their approval. Admiral Hayes had been waiting for this day. Every human military leader knew it would come eventually. The day when being nice stopped working. The day when aliens pushed too far. Approved, she said. Show them what Deathworlders really are. The channel closed. Jake opened a new communication to his ship. Lieutenant Amy Parker answered. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was strong. Captain, the crew is ready. Ready for what, Lieutenant? Ready to make them pay. Within 1 hour, human ships across the galaxy began moving. They did not ask for permission. They did not send messages to the council. They just moved with deadly purpose. Captain Dan Wright commanded the destroyer Hammer. He was a quiet man with careful hands and patient eyes, but today his patience was gone. His ship joined Jake's fleet along with 12 others. Captain Kelly Brooks brought her ship Lightning from the inner systems. She was young and fast and very smart. Her crew had trained for this day, even though they hoped it would never come. There was a human fleet gathered near New Haven. 25 ships became 50. 50 became 100. 100 became 200. The Zelani homeworld was called Zektar. It was a green planet with 3 moons and billions of insect people living in great hive cities. The Zilani government thought they were safe. They thought humans would complain to the council and wait for committees to make decisions. They were wrong. Jake stood on the bridge of his ship Resolve. Around him, his crew worked quietly and efficiently. They all knew what they were doing. They had trained for this kind of operation for years. Communications, Jake said to Lieutenant Parker. Open a channel to Zektar. Channel open, sir. Jake looked at the screen showing the green planet below. Millions of Zilani were going about their normal lives. They did not know that everything was about to change. Zilani government, Jake said in a clear voice. This is Captain Morrison of the human fleet. You have 1 hour to surrender those responsible for the New Haven massacre. After that, we stop being nice. The response came quickly from the planet. It was Hive Queen Zaska, the leader of all Zilani. Her voice was like clicking and buzzing sounds. Human, you threaten us? We are not afraid of your small ships. You are few. We are many. Jake nodded to Chief Engineer Pete Collins. Pete had been quiet since hearing about his parents. Now his eyes were hard like stone. Pete, are you ready? I have been ready for 50 years, Captain. Pete began entering commands into his computer. He was unlocking weapon systems that had been sealed since humans joined the galactic community. These were the weapons humans had built during their early space wars. Weapons designed by people who came from a death world. Captain Wright's ship Hammer moved into position above the planet. Captain Brooks brought lightning around to the far side. Other human ships spread out in a perfect formation. The Zilani sent their own ships to meet the humans. 100 Zilani fighters launched from the planet. They were fast and deadly with sharp weapons and thick armor. 100 fighters approaching, Amy reported. Let them come, Jake said. The Zilani fighters attacked with confidence. They had fought humans before and won. Humans always held back. Humans always tried to avoid killing. Not today. The first Zilani fighter exploded before it could fire a shot. Then the second, then the third. Human weapons cut through them like they were made of paper. In 10 minutes, all 100 fighters were gone. Not one human ship was damaged. On the planet below, Hive Queen Zaska watched her fighters die on her screens. She could not believe what she was seeing. Impossible, she clicked. Humans do not fight like this. Her military advisor, a large Zilani with scarred wings, looked at the battle reports. My queen, they are using weapons we have never seen before. What weapons? Deathworld weapons. The hour was almost over. Jake opened the communication channel again. Zilani government, you have 5 minutes remaining. This time, the response was different. Zaska's voice was not as confident. Human, we can negotiate. There is no need for violence. There was no need for violence on New Haven either, Jake replied. 4 minutes. Around the planet, human ships powered up weapons that could crack moons. Pete Collins uploaded new targeting data. Amy Parker coordinated with the other ship captains. My queen, the military advisor said urgently. We should surrender. Never. Zaska clicked angrily. We are Zilani. We do not surrender to soft humans. Jake looked at his watch. The hour was over. All human ships, he said calmly. Weapons free, no restrictions. Show them what we really are. The first shot came from Captain Wright's ship Hammer. It was not like the weapons aliens knew humans to use. This was something different, something that made space itself bend and twist. The shot hit the largest Zilani orbital defense station. The station did not explode. It simply stopped existing. One moment it was there with thousands of Zilani soldiers inside. The next moment, there was empty space. On the planet below, every Zilani felt the ground shake. Not from the explosion, but from the complete absence where the station used to be. What was that? Hive Queen Zaska demanded. Her military advisor was staring at his screens with wide bug eyes. I do not know, my queen. The station is gone. Captain Brooks in the Lightning targeted the planet's communication satellites. Her weapons were different from Wright's. They sent out waves of energy that fried every electronic device they touched. In seconds, the Zilani lost all contact with their outer colonies and military bases. Jake watched from his bridge as his captains worked. They were not shooting randomly. Every shot had a purpose. Every target was chosen carefully. This was not a battle. This was a lesson being taught by experts. "Amy," he said to Lieutenant Parker, "send a message to all Zilani frequencies." "Yes, sir. Channel open." Jake's voice was broadcast across the entire planet. Every Zilani heard him speak. "People of Zektar, your government used biological weapons against human civilians. Your government killed children. Your government thought humans were weak because we chose to be gentle. Today you learn the difference between choosing to be gentle and being unable to be dangerous." Pete Collins was working at his engineering station. He had tears in his eyes, but his hands were steady. He was uploading new weapon programs to the entire human fleet. Programs that had been locked away for 50 years. "Pete," Jake said softly, "are you okay?" Pete looked up. His face was sad but determined. "My parents grew roses, Captain. Beautiful red roses, they were so proud of their garden." He turned back to his controls. "The Zilani will remember what happens when you hurt gardeners." 3 more orbital stations vanished. Not destroyed, simply removed from existence. The Zilani fleet tried to fight back, but their weapons could not penetrate human shields. Worse, every time they fired, human ships appeared where they were not supposed to be. Captain Sarah Jones commanded the stealth ship Ghost. She was a small woman with quick eyes and faster hands. Her ship could become invisible and move through space like a shadow. She appeared inside the Zilani fleet formation and disabled 12 ships before they knew she was there. The Zilani had never seen technology like this. Their ships were built for fighting other insects who used simple energy weapons and metal armor. Human technology was different. It was built by people who had to survive on a world that tried to kill them every day. Commander Tony Rodriguez led the Human Special Forces team. He was a quiet man with dark skin and patient eyes. While the ships fought in space, he took his team down to the planet's surface. They did not go to destroy anything. They went to prove a point. Tony and his 5 soldiers walked into the main government building on Zektar. They passed through walls like ghosts. They walked past security systems that could not see them. They entered the room where Hive Queen Zaska was meeting with her advisors. The queen was clicking frantically at her generals when Tony stepped out of empty air in front of her desk. "Your Majesty," he said politely in perfect Zilani language. Every Zilani in the room froze with terror. The queen's guards reached for their weapons, but Tony held up one hand. "I would not recommend that," he said. "I am here to talk, not to fight. But if you prefer to fight," he smiled. It was not a threatening smile, but somehow that made it more frightening. The guards kept their hands away from their weapons. "How did you get in here?" Zaska demanded. "The same way we got into your other government buildings, and your military bases, and your private homes." Tony looked around the room calmly. "We are in 47 locations right now across your planet. We could have killed you all hours ago if we wanted to." This was not true. Tony only had 5 soldiers with him. But the queen did not know that. She could not know that. Human psychological warfare was as advanced as their technology. "What do you want?" the queen asked. "I want you to understand something," Tony said. "For 50 years, humans have protected this galaxy. We have stopped wars, we have saved lives. We have been police officers when we could have been conquerors." He walked closer to the queen's desk. His soldiers remained invisible, but she could feel them in the room. "We did this because we chose to. Not because we had to. Not because we were weak. Because we thought it was right." In space above the planet, more Zilani ships were disappearing. Captain Kelly Brooks had found their main battle fleet, 50 large warships that were the pride of the Zilani military. She destroyed them in 12 minutes. But she did not just destroy them. She took them apart piece by piece while the crews escaped in life pods. She wanted the survivors to tell others what they had seen. The Zilani fighters who survived would remember human ships that moved faster than thought. They would remember weapons that could reach through their best shields like they were not there. They would remember being completely helpless against enemies who chose to let them live. Jake opened communications with other alien governments. not to ask for help or permission, to make sure they understood what was happening. "Ambassador Vextal," he said to the Kithran leader, "are you watching?" Vextal's blue feathers were pressed flat against his body in fear. "Captain Morrison, surely this has gone far enough." "Has it? Your people said humans were soft, that we worried too much, that we saw danger where there was none." Jake's voice was cold. "Are we still soft, Ambassador?" Vextal could not answer. He was watching his screens show Zilani ships being destroyed faster than he could count them. On the planet's surface, Tony Rodriguez was still talking to the Queen. "Your people thought humans were weak because we followed rules, because we tried to avoid killing, because we protected civilians even when they were shooting at us." He leaned forward. "Those were choices we made. Today we are making different choices." The Queen's military advisor whispered urgently, "My Queen, our entire fleet is destroyed. Our orbital defenses are gone. We have no way to fight back." Tony heard him. "You never had a way to fight back. You just did not know it until now." He stood up straight and looked around the room one more time. The humans on New Haven were farmers and teachers and children. They chose to build instead of destroy. They chose to grow flowers instead of weapons. They chose to trust that others would be as gentle as they were. His voice became very quiet. "You killed them for making that choice. Now you will live with the consequences of making yours." Tony and his soldiers faded away like shadows, leaving the Zilani leaders alone with their fear. In space, the last Zilani military ship surrendered. The battle was over. It had lasted exactly 72 hours. The galaxy would remember those 3 days forever. 3 weeks after the war ended, the Galactic Council met again. The same meeting room, the same floating chairs, but everything was different now. Ambassador Vextal sat very still in his chair. His blue feathers were dull and flat. He had not spoken loudly since watching the Zilani fleet disappear. Other alien representatives whispered nervously to each other, but no one wanted to speak first. Jake Morrison walked into the room wearing the same dark blue uniform. But now when he entered, every alien in the room went quiet. They watched him with careful eyes like small animals watching a predator. He did not sit down. He stood in the center of the room and looked around at all the alien faces. "The Zilani government has surrendered," he said simply. "The beings responsible for the New Haven massacre have been turned over to human authorities. The biological weapons have been destroyed." A small Fernac raised his hand nervously. "Captain Morrison, what will happen to the Zilani people?" "Nothing," Jake said. "They will rebuild their government, they will repair their ships, they will continue to live on their planet, but they will remember what happens when you kill human children." The Fernac looked confused. "You are not going to punish them?" "We already have." Jake walked to the front of the room where a large screen showed star maps of the galaxy. He touched a control and the map changed color. Red areas showed places where human ships patrolled. Effective immediately, human forces will no longer serve as peacekeepers for the galaxy. The room erupted in worried voices. Aliens spoke over each other in a dozen different languages. "Captain Morrison," Vextal said carefully, "surely you do not mean—" "I mean exactly what I said. For 50 years, human ships have stopped your wars. Human soldiers have died protecting your trade routes. Human negotiators have solved your problems." Jake's voice was calm, but final. "No more." Ambassador Sarah Kim entered the room behind Jake. She was a smart woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice. She had been Earth's diplomat for many years. Everyone knew her as patient and friendly. Today she carried a folder full of papers. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sarah said politely, "I have new agreements for those who wish to maintain relations with humanity." She placed the papers on the central table. Aliens leaned forward to read them. "These are mutual defense treaties," she explained. "If you sign one, humanity will protect your worlds and trade routes. In return, you will provide certain considerations to human colonies and businesses." A tall Helios with silver skin asked, "What kind of considerations?" "Favorable trade terms, shared technology, basing rights for human ships, the usual diplomatic arrangements between allies." The Helios looked worried. And if we do not sign? Sarah smiled her gentle smile. Then you do not sign. Humanity will not force anyone to be our ally. But everyone in the room understood what she was not saying. If you were not humanity's ally, you were on your own. If pirates attacked your ships, humans would not help. If your neighbors started a war, humans would not stop it. Jake looked at his watch. The Council has 1 hour to review the treaties. After that, human ships will begin withdrawing from non-allied space. He turned to leave, but Vextal called out desperately, "Captain Morrison, wait. You cannot abandon the galaxy like this." Jake stopped and looked back. "We are not abandoning anyone. We are simply no longer taking responsibility for everyone. But without human peacekeepers, there will be chaos. Pirates will attack trade ships, border wars will start again." "Yes," Jake said. "There probably will be chaos. Then why are you doing this?" Jake was quiet for a moment. He thought about Lieutenant Amy Parker, who still cried sometimes when she thought about her brother. He thought about Chief Pete Collins, who kept a picture of his parents' rose garden on his desk. "Because," he said finally, "the galaxy needs to learn that being nice is a choice, and choices have consequences." 6 months later, Jake stood on the bridge of the Resolve. His ship was patrolling the space around New Mars, a human colony world. The planet below was green and peaceful, with cities full of people who felt safe. "Captain," Amy Parker said from her station. She was still his tactical officer, but now she wore the insignia of a commander. "We have a distress call from the Fernac trade convoy. They are under attack by pirates near the Vega system." "Are the Fernac our allies, Commander?" Amy checked her computer. "Yes, sir. They signed the Mutual Defense Treaty 4 months ago." "Then respond immediately. Full speed." The Resolve turned toward the Vega system. In 30 minutes, they would save the Fernac ships from pirates. The small mouse-like aliens would be grateful and would remember that humans kept their promises to friends. "Captain," Pete Collins called from his engineering station. He was a full commander now, but he still preferred fixing engines to commanding ships. "We have another message. The Boran government is asking for help mediating their border dispute with the Krell." "Are either the Boran or Krell our allies?" "No, sir. Neither signed treaties with us." "Then send them a standard response. Humanity wishes them well in solving their problems." Jake knew the Boran and Krell would probably fight each other. Ships would be destroyed. People would die. It would be tragic and unnecessary, but it would not be humanity's responsibility. Commander Tony Rodriguez had been promoted to lead all human special forces. He now worked from a secret base near Earth, training soldiers for missions the galaxy would never hear about. His team still operated throughout known space, but now they only protected human interests. They were shadows that watched and waited. Other species knew they were there but could never find them. The message was clear. Humanity's friends were safe. Humanity's enemies were not. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Hayes had been promoted to Supreme, commander of all human military forces. She sat in her office looking at reports from across the galaxy. The Kythera had signed a treaty within 1 week of Jake's announcement. Ambassador Vextal had personally flown to Earth to negotiate the terms. His pride had been replaced by practical fear. The Helios had taken longer, but they signed 2 after pirates destroyed 3 of their cargo ships. No human vessel had been nearby to help. The Zelani had requested a treaty 6 times. Each time, humanity had politely declined. The insect people would remain unprotected for the foreseeable future. They could rebuild their military, but they would never again feel safe from human retaliation. Some smaller species had tried to form their own defense alliances. Most of these had failed quickly. Turns out, when you take away the humans who had been secretly preventing conflicts, a lot of old grudges surface quickly. Captain Dan Wright now commanded a battle group of 30 ships. He patrolled the core worlds where humanity's closest allies lived. His presence ensured that no one would make the same mistake the Zelani had made. Captain Kelly Brooks had been given command of the fastest ships in the human fleet. Her job was to respond to threats against human colonies. She could reach any Human world within days, bringing enough firepower to end any conflict quickly. The galaxy had adapted to its new reality faster than anyone expected. Trade routes now followed patterns that kept them close to human-allied space. Neutral worlds found themselves isolated and vulnerable. Aggressive species discovered that without humans to restrain their enemies, old conflicts reignited with deadly consequences. Jake looked out at the stars from his bridge. Somewhere out there, the Fernac convoy was safe because humans had chosen to help them. Somewhere else, other ships were under attack because humans had chosen not to help them. "Commander Parker," he said, "what is our next assignment?" Amy smiled. It was a genuine smile now, not forced. "Escort duty for a human colony ship heading to the Outer Rim. They are starting a new settlement." "Good. It will be nice to see people building instead of fighting." The Resolve turned toward its new mission. Behind them, the galaxy continued. To learn that Deathworlders had always been nice by choice, not necessity. And choice, as every human knew, could always change. The day Deathworlders stopped being nice had indeed changed everything. The galaxy was more honest now. Everyone knew exactly where they stood with humanity. Most importantly, human children could grow up safely, knowing their parents would do whatever was necessary to protect them. Even if that meant the galaxy had to learn to be afraid.